President Obama became the first sitting president to visit the Arctic in September, he spoke about Kivalina, and that put the tiny village on the map. Kivalina is about 80 miles north of Kotzebue, which is the gateway to the Arctic. Yet it has seen the negative effects of climate change for decades. Now that the president and the world knows its plight, the community thought that help would be on the way. But nearly 3 months later, that hope is quickly fading. Kivalina is half the size it was 60 years ago. Sea ice no longer shelters it from storms. Now warmer, the Arctic Ocean melts the protective barrier.
It is shrinking because of the ocean.
Lucy Adams keeps the Inupiat tradition of crimping mucklucks alive.
You have to have strong hands. That's why my hands always blister one by one.
Without animals, it will be hard to pass on her knowledge to the next generation.
That's a ring seal. They turn out only in midwinter. If it's warm, they won't turn out.
When I tap you, sit down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Here at the school,
9, sit down.
The challenges of climate change can be found in the number of students
when you're sharing a book
in Emma Norton's class.
We only have 12 books, and there's 13 first graders and 16 second graders. So
the second grade teacher is sick, so Emma has more kids than usual.
How many of you have ever had a pumpkin in your house?
There are no substitute teachers in Kivalina. It's hard to get teachers to move here.
There were 3 kids on a four-wheeler, and I came around the corner with 2 of our other brand new teachers, and the first thing out of one of the kids, we're like, oh, hey, we're new teachers, who are you? Oh, you might as well just get back on a plane. Everybody leaves us anyway.
Emma got over her first day and quickly realized the kids are too cramped to learn.
We were willing to give up a teacher's lounge so the kids could have a classroom. But we desperately, desperately need a school.
The McQueen School is 200% over capacity, more than 40 years old, and it shows. One portable classroom wasn't enough. The playground was demolished for another. Now there's funding to pay for a brand new school, but here's the problem.
No room to grow. Got water on all sides.
Take a walk around this thin barrier island, and it's easy to see. Kivalina is getting smaller every day. Temporary protection holds up the land near the airstrip, but eventually the whole village will be lost to erosion. In 2004, 20-foot waves crashed into Kivalina. There was widespread flooding. Several homes were nearly lost in the storm.
Oh yeah, we still have kids having dreams that Kivalina is flooding, that Kivalina is getting washed out.
There's no plumbing in Kivalina because no one wants to invest in an island that likely won't exist in a decade. People haul drinking and bathing water from the washateria.
It's very unhealthy for us to work in this kind of environment, but we managed to survive.
And they still use honey buckets. Sanitary conditions
This was our wash basin.
are no better here than some third world countries. Entire families wash in the same small bowl.
We do worry about getting sick because we're just reusing that water. Reusing and reusing.
Most everyone here wants to move, but the state and the federal government won't pay for it. And on top of that, there's no agreement on where to go.
It's right there, this first mountain right there. The beginning of this chain of mountains.
But many people want to move inland, where the new school will be built.
7.5 miles.
But Lucy says that's too far from the ocean. And from the seal, she needs to keep her culture alive.
3 elders was trying to tell them it's swampy around it. They say when the reindeer herd, reindeers used to fall down and disappear in swamps.
When we were younger, this is
Millie Hawley,
because we lived on.
the tribal president, was counting on the new school to unite the community. But again, there's a big problem.
$40 million for the causeway right here. It's about a mile, less than a mile.
The school funding does not include money for a road to get there.
I would love to be in a new school, and that's part of the reason I've been hanging on is I want to see the new school. Who knows when that's ever going to happen.
In the meantime, Emma does the best she can with what she has.
What's another word for cover? Did, hid, or lid?
But how do you explain to 6-year-olds why it's taking so long?
The kids already ask, are you coming back? Are you coming back next year? And it's hard to think that one day they'll be, no, gotta go. Raise your hand and tell me. Oh, not photocopy, photosynthesis. Say it.
And how do you tell them you won't be around to see what happens?
It's gonna be really hard when I eventually do decide to leave and go somewhere else, and I wish I could like scoop them up all and take them with me. This feeds the plant.
These kids could become the first climate change refugees in the United States. They play on an island that may not exist when they grow up. To them, uncertainty has become a way of life. So you may be asking, it seems pretty hopeless there. Why do people stay in Kivalina? Millie Hawley told me she would have moved a long time ago, but as tribal president, she's staying for her community. While some have left, others still have hope that they'll figure something out. This month, Millie is meeting with a handful of agencies, including the state, the borough, NANA, FEMA, just to name a few, Rhonda, to see what they can figure out for the future. You have to question the sanity of people bold enough to subject their bodies to this kind of torture. Sometimes even seasoned racers have second thoughts.
I swear every year at the top of the first cliff, I'm about that far from going, nope, not gonna do this.
But every year Flip Fulldecker does. This is his first race in 1979.
As you can see, it looks like he's wearing his white underwear, but I'm sure there were shorts.
Those were running shorts back then.
35 years later, he is still racing. Each time, a new war story to add to his arsenal.
Well, let's see. The story of me going to the ER after sliding in my little nylon shorts in the snow.
The mountain could tell a few tales of its own. The urban legend of its beginnings goes like this. Two men walk into a bar, and after a few drinks, one dares another to go up and back in an hour.
The bet, if it happened sometime before 1915, and it wasn't a big thing. This is the official program.
Doug Capra has spent years researching what really happened.
It's amazing the misinformation about Seward history that exists.
Here's what we do know. The first documented race was in 1915 on the 3rd of July.
It starts being called the Marathon Mountain.
Just 5 contestants ran up and down the mountain, and the winner finished in 1 hour and 2 seconds. But what happened before that?
And the first race was run just by a couple of people. It wasn't a crowd or anything like that. The paper didn't cover it or anything. You know, there must have been a lot of barroom bets in Seward at the time.
Doug may never find the answer, but it sure does make a great story. However it started, there is no denying Mount Marathon's history is rich with records. In 1963, Jane Trigg defied the odds to become the first female finisher, collapsing at the end. From then on, women raced right alongside men. But the men weren't always gracious.
There was some guys with a little too much machoism going on that, you know, they wouldn't get out of the ladies' ways.
I don't think you would have let a girl pass you.
Oh, of course I would have.
Flip's wife Patty won Mount Marathon twice. But it wasn't love at first run.
I don't remember a lot of the race. I remember, you know, going up, but I do remember when I finished the race, I was like, I will never, ever do that again.
Before Patty went up the first time, she asked Flip to show her the ropes. He never showed up.
No.
No, thank you. But
His friend did, though. Should have
Yeah.
married his friend. No.
yeah.
No.
Well, she ended up doing the race without my help, and I still hear about it.
35 years later,
Look at that car we drove off in.
the Fuldackers have completed a combined 67 Mount Marathon races. And here's the thing, they can't stop.
It's a picture of the kids.
Neither can their twin daughters, who grew up on the mountain and returned to Seward year after year on July 4th.
Especially Alaskan families, you'll have 6-year-old Johnny doing it, and you'll have Grandpa doing it, and everybody in between. So that's a very cool aspect of Mount Marathon because it's so damn addictive.
So addictive, it's likely to last another 100 years of racing. Emily Carlson, KTVA 11 News. Electricity rates have skyrocketed for everyone since 2001, except in Kodiak, where they are paying 2.5% less than they did 14 years ago. So how did they do it? They are using groundbreaking technology that has the whole world paying attention. On a clear day, Kodiak Island is stunning. Sun like this is rare. It showcases this jaw-dropping view, which does double duty.
Kodiak is a rainy place at times, and it's a windy place too. So we take advantage of those two natural elements to make a lot of our power.
This is where the town gets 70% of its electricity.
That's always here.
Kodiak Electric Association CEO Darren Scott takes us for a walk on Terror Lake Dam. Right now, it's the highest he's ever seen. The lake being this full charges your batteries, so to speak.
Yes, yeah. We use this as a big battery, and it kind of charges our battery too. It just keeps us motivated throughout the year because this is our cornerstone for power.
The key is the lake's high elevation. From here, the water drops 1,400 feet into the hydro plant. So this is the workhorse right here.
This is it. This is the guy that, without this, the hydro wouldn't be any good.
These giant copper generators convert water pressure into electricity. The hydro plant costs about $30,000 a day to operate. KEA's diesel plant, more than 3 times that, $100,000 a day. So it's really quiet in here. None of this stuff is working or running right now, but that's a good thing.
Well, yeah, it's a good thing. When these guys are silent, we know that the rain and the wind are giving us power.
KEA Board President Cliff Davidson shows us around the plant. Just an emergency backup now. The result of a crazy idea. Ditch diesel for wind.
You take the chance because you live on an island, and island life is sometimes you're forced to take a risk.
We definitely felt we were taking a risk. There were a lot of butterflies in the process.
Kodiak was the first in Alaska to install giant wind turbines, but it wasn't easy. First, they had to convince General Electric to sell them 3. Then the challenge of installing them.
There were some nail biters along the way, but they've worked so well for the town, saved us so much money.
The windmills make enough energy to replace 2.8 million gallons of diesel KEA was burning each year. That's a savings of $7 million for a total of $27 million since 2011. Its success paid for 3 more.
This one here is just getting ready to start.
But you can't rely on the wind. Who knows when she'll blow? We were in Kodiak 5 days and saw the windmills move just twice. So on still days, the hydro plant kicks in more energy.
Combine the two strengths and wind turbines run, hydro backs off. Wind turbines are not running like today. Hydro picks back up the load, and they just work in concert together really, really well.
Devil's Club.
A sweet tune for brewer Bill Milstein. He takes pride in every pint of his Kodiak Brewing Company's craft beer.
The grains have to be very uniform size, and they have to have certain protein content.
But if the process is off by even 1 degree, the grain can sprout and ruin the entire batch. Kind of like a science experiment.
Oh, it is a science, yeah.
It's complicated, and it takes a lot of energy. Ben's average electric bill tops $1,400 a month. It may sound like a lot, but Ben says thanks to wind and water power, it hasn't gone up in years.
All right,
Like his cutting-edge beer recipes, Ben is proud KEA is pushing the limits, and he's toasting the rewards.
Somebody's got to be the first one to do it. You know, somebody does. And you can't just say, oh, no one's done it before, therefore it shouldn't be done or it can't be done.
A few miles south, Kodiak's Coast Guard search and rescue teams protect 4 million miles of ocean.
Basically a small city with all the demands of a small city.
The Coast Guard uses 30% of the electricity KEA produces. But they're also doing their part to conserve.
When the fan doesn't turn on, it'll trigger an alarm.
High tech to the rescue.
This is the air handling unit.
This sophisticated control system keeps track of all 25 buildings on base. It's smart too, and can pinpoint inefficiencies.
We found a lot of broken stuff. It was kind of a painful process.
Over the past 10 years, energy consumption dropped 45% on base. In Kodiak, renewable energy doesn't just save money, it preserves their island and their way of life.
There's just a motivation to do it right, and that's the right thing to do.
Down on the docks, you'll find the king of Kodiak's economy.
You know, seafood is #1 in Kodiak.
But the season isn't always reliable. Right now, it's quiet at North Pacific Seafood. Just a few fishermen stocking up on ice before heading out to sea. The salmon run hasn't hit yet, but when it does, it will push KEA's wind and water resources to the max.
Kodiak is really unique. We've got unique challenges, but obviously KEA has come up with some very unique solutions.
One of those solutions,
There's 1,200 batteries in here.
giant batteries that take the energy the turbines make on a windy day and save it. When the blades stop, they provide a 30 to 90 second surge of power until the hydro plant kicks in. But it's tough on those batteries.
This makes the power, this conditions it to get the right kind of power that we need, and that tells it what to do.
Which brings us here. This is helping Kodiak's green power become the most efficient on the planet. It keeps a close eye on energy levels. Too low, and the lights in town turn off. But the flywheels stop that from happening with a few seconds of power.
These systems are used in maybe about a dozen places in the world. The batteries are used in a few places in the world as well, but we're the first ones to use them both at the same time.
On Pillar Mountain, the wind turbines have become an important part of the community. They're proud their tiny island town is leading the world's green energy movement. It's a win-win all the way around. So you may be thinking, why doesn't every city, town, and village in Alaska do the same thing? The answer is that Kodiak is unique. Their hydro plant is so successful because they get so much rain. The Alaska Climate Research Center says about 78 inches a year. Here in Anchorage, Rhonda, we get just 17.
I'm glad we just get 17.